Hi friends, a very good evening and thank you for joining in. Just wanted to check if everything is working as expected. Uh, can you just confirm in the chat window if everything is working as expected? In case you don't see the chat window, just refresh the page and you'll be able to see it. Let me also just check it on my phone. Okay, yeah, I can see myself. Yeah, things are looking good. Things are looking good, very good. So we'll get started in another 5 to 6 minutes. Okay, so we have about 14 or 15 questions today from both the mathematical part of aptitude and also the verbal part of aptitude. Okay, so good. Again, just as a quick reminder, we have an All India mock test tomorrow between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. Right? So if you are preparing for GATE, or if any of your friends are preparing for GATE CSC, we strongly recommend you take this. This is open to all, whether you're a course enrolled student, test series enrolled student, or otherwise. You just have to sign up on our website, which is gate.appliedroots.com, and just take the test. Again, this will help you understand where you stand, what you're lacking, and how to improve. Cool. Chirag, so this is the last session in the first iteration of our subjects. So we have covered all the subjects from in the order that we prescribe and suggest our students to cover. The last topic is aptitude, right? So we are finishing aptitude today. This will be the end of our first iteration of live sessions. We will start the second iteration maybe in a week or two. Some of those again will be publicly available live sessions. We will focus most of those live sessions on preparation strategy, topics that you could focus on more, some of those issues rather than just question answer solving. And because the primary purpose of the first iteration was to be on the sidelines, taking you through the whole journey, right? So making sure that you're on track and things like that. Again, so we'll do some of those general live sessions publicly. The course enrolled student also will have specific live sessions. Cool. Very good. Again, we'll keep you posted on the second iteration of live sessions in a week or two. Very good. So here is a question which is getting 60 marks good in GATE? I think this is a question by Shivam. If you're getting 60 marks, I mean, if the same hardness of question papers in the last few years is observed, you could get a pretty decent rank. I think you'll be in a rank below 800, which means you can get into all the IITs, some departments, not all the departments, but some departments in IITs, good NITs, good triple ITs, etc. So 60 marks, assuming the paper is of the same hardness as previous years, is a good number. Is a good start, but try and target to the 70 plus range. Preferably 70, 75-ish is a safer band to be in. Okay, good. Ved, I'm happy that you're reading, I think the Kenneth Rawson's book, very happy that you're reading it. The only small suggestion that I'll give you is if you're preparing for the GATE in coming February, just make sure you plan your time accordingly, because typically when you're reading a textbook, it's phenomenally beautiful. The author, especially people like Kenneth Rawson, have written their textbooks very well. But just make sure that you focus on the contents for the GATE exam, because you have the GATE exam in about another 3.5, 4 months. So that's what we would recommend. Don't get stuck in a single subject, because what's important in GATE is the breadth, right? Again, if you're just learning from Kenneth Rawson, not with a GATE focus or probably GATE 2023, no issues. Please go through it. Please go through it as thoroughly as possible. Should we start GATE CSC aptitude? Yeah, we will start. So we are not yet at 7 p.m. We typically start at 7:02 or 7:03. Again, in general, the GATE aptitude is quite easy. There may be one or two slightly trickier problems, but most problems tend to be on the easier side. So Pankaj asks how to score more than 70 marks. A simple rule of thumb is this. Make sure that you're not leaving any subject. You may not be good at some topics in some subjects, but try to go through all the subjects, because nobody can answer all the questions thoroughly, number one. Number two, solve at least 2 to 3,000 questions of the similar type as GATE. Again, in GATE, about 50% of questions are on the easier side, right? You can easily score 50 marks, 55 marks also, just by solving the easier questions and a few medium level questions. So if you want to get to 70, you should be able to solve a reasonable, not too many, but a reasonable number of medium level hardness questions. That's the second thing. Third, revise all the subjects. Very, very important given the breadth of syllabus that you have for GATE. That's the third thing. Fourth thing is avoid silly mistakes. That's super duper important. Lot of students who have the potential to score 70, 75 marks, the only reason they don't is they commit like 10, 12 marks silly mistakes and their numbers go down. So try and avoid that. So is the level of grand tests the same as actual test? Yes, very similar. Again, GATE examinations themselves don't have a singular standard. There is a little variability in them. So according to the variability that we typically observe in the last 5-6 years of GATE question papers, we are setting the question papers of similar hardness, but some grand tests and mock tests might be slightly harder than GATE examination also. We are only doing this primarily because in the last year, GATE 2021, set 2 was trickier and lengthier than set 1. And some students panicked. So we want our students to be prepared even in that eventuality where they get a slightly lengthier or trickier question paper. That's why some of our questions and some of our tests themselves are intentionally designed to simulate that slightly trickier, slightly lengthier question papers. So Nitin says, I have completed 50% of the syllabus. Is it as advisable to appear for the mock test tomorrow? Nitin, I would still recommend that given that you have completed 50% of the syllabus, give it a shot. But don't compare your results with somebody who has completed 100% of the syllabus. Like with 50% of the syllabus, assuming that you prepared for, let's say, 50 marks, if you're getting like 35, 40 marks for the topics that you have prepared, and if you're probably getting like 10 marks or 12 marks on the topics that you have not prepared, maybe things like aptitude, some simple questions in other subjects, that's a good sign, right? That basically is a very important data point for you that yes, I still have 50% of syllabus. If I just focus on this 50% syllabus, if I can solve easy and a few medium problems, I can easily go into that 65 plus or even 70 plus marks. So even if you have done 50% of the syllabus, it's a good idea to take to know how well you know that 50% syllabus and how you can plan for the next 3.5, 4 months that you have ahead of you. So Pawan has a slightly orthogonal question. I'll take this question and then we'll go to the live session itself of problem solving. So Pawan says, do we also help with TAFR CS exam also? Again, the TAFR's, the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research examination is very similar to the GATE examination. So if you're preparing for GATE through us or in general otherwise, you're well prepared for almost 80 to 90% of the questions that you'll encounter at PSUs and also research centers like TAFR. Okay, cool. So let's get started with today's session. Let's start solving problems. Just let me start sharing my screen quickly. So we have about 14 or 15 problems. But most of the problems are going to be on the easier side. Okay, just to give you a quick overview here, in the actual GATE examination itself, you have about 10 questions in aptitude overall. These 10 questions include the mathematical aptitude, which is quant, reasoning, all of that, and verbal aptitude. Right? So this constitutes of 15 marks. Very important. 15 marks is a good number, right? It's not a trivial number, right? So the weightage of general aptitude itself is considerable. It's 15 marks. So please don't ignore this subject. Squeeze in this subject at some point in your preparation life cycle. And within this 10 marks, within this 15 marks, we typically observe 9 marks for mathematical aptitude and 7 marks for verbal. Again, these numbers change. We have seen years where there is only 6 marks for verbal aptitude. We have also seen years where there are 8 marks for verbal aptitude. But this is the general scheme of things. In general, general aptitude is mostly easy to score. If you have reasonable verbal ability, if you are comfortable with high school level mathematics, you can easily score like anywhere from 11 to 12 marks easily. There may be a few questions both in verbal and math which could be tricky. So we will see some of those slightly trickier questions at the very end of these. I think the last 2 or 3 questions are slightly on the trickier side, but rest of them are very, very simple and easy. Okay. So let's solve the problems now. I'll go and answer the questions on the on the chat window at the end of this session as usual. So let's get started. Okay, here comes the first question. Please put your answers in the chat window. Even if you ask questions enough, I may not be able to answer because a lot of other students are answering the questions. I don't want to disturb them. At the end of these 14-15 questions, I'll surely tackle some general questions as usual. Simple question, just read the question carefully. That's all you have to do. This is more like a high school question. Again, most aptitude questions are at the high school level, like your 8th, 9th, 10th class level problems. There may be one or two slightly complex ones, but most of them are in your 8th, 9th, 10th class level questions. Again, very simple question, typical 1 mark question. Good, good, good. Most of you got it right. I think some of you made a small, trivial, silly mistake. So just check that quickly. Good, 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 good. Okay, in the interest of time, I'll go a little quickly as soon because I see almost a lot of students answering this question. So let's solve it, right? Most of you got it right. It's also straightforward. So let's go through it. Some of you made mistakes, but let's just read the question carefully. So in a division problem, the divisor, let's call the divisor as D, is 3 times the quotient, right? Very simple. And it is 6 times the remainder. This is what is given. If the remainder equals to 2, you just plug in. Based on this, I just wrote this equation. If remainder equals to 2, so this becomes equal to 12, right? Then what is the dividend? Not the divisor, the dividend, right? So in a typical division, right, this is your divisor, this is your dividend, this is your quotient, and this is your remainder. That's a typical, again, your probably this is how you learned to do the long form division, right? So here you know that D equals to 12. You know that the remainder, because 6R equals to 12, the remainder has to be 2. And you know the quotient has to be 4 because 3Q equals to 12, right? So what will be this dividend now? This dividend will be 12 into 4, 48 plus 2, 50. That's it. Very simple calculation. Lot of students might get little confused with this dividend and divisor, right? Simple terminology. Very simple, straightforward problem. So A is the right answer. Very simple to answer, right? Cool. Let's go to the second question now. Again, a typical 1 mark question. Again, all the general questions, please put them at the end of this discussion. Let's solve these 14-15 questions that you have in the next hour or so. We can easily solve this in the next 1 hour, 10 minutes. After that, we'll spend some time in Q&A. We typically observe MCQs only in aptitude. Again, most of you got it right. See, literally, if you do aptitude, that's why I said of the 15 marks, you can easily get 11 to 12 marks because a lot of these questions are easy. Of course, you have to be careful and avoid silly mistakes. We'll come to slightly trickier problems a little later. Good, 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 good. I think most of you got it correct. These are simple problems, guys. This is basic aptitude, nothing very complex or hard. Again, aptitude often becomes a very, very scoring subject for people in GATE. Okay, I've seen a lot of you answer. This is like, again, a simple 1 mark question. Good, good, good. Okay, simple problem, right? Let's solve it. So you want what is there in the units place of the number, which is the sum of all these. So when you do 0 square, you will get 0 in the units place. When you do 1 square, you will get 1 in the units place. When you do 2 square, you get 4 in the units place. When you do 3 square, you get 9 in the units place. So if you sum all of them, you will get 14, right? Which means 4 will be there in the units place. The 1 will be the carry. The 1 will be carried, of course. 1 will be the carry. And of course, in the second digit, again, in the second digit, you will add this 1. But the question is all about units digit, so answer is A. You can actually solve this in 25-30 seconds, right? So very easy. You don't require to use a calculator. Not at all. You don't require it. So simple. Okay, cool. Again, please avoid general questions. I may not be able to answer because we're solving problems. Everybody is involved in it. I'll answer them at the end. Again, a typical 1 mark question. Please draw diagrams. In case you're not sure, aptitude problems can easily be solved using diagrams, like many other topics that we've seen in all these live sessions in the last 6 months or so. Good, good, good. Straightforward problem, right, actually? Again, GATE aptitude is much, much easier than CAT aptitude. Way easier. It's more like your standard textbook questions from NCERT in your high school days. Very similar to that level. Maybe 1 or 2 questions little tricky, but most of them are easy. This reminds you of your physics problems in your 11th and 12th class. But this is not a physics problem, obviously. Okay, so let's solve this. Many of you got it right. Simple, straightforward problem. So you have a wheel like this with a radius of 8 3/4. So which is 8 4s are 32. 32 plus 3 is 35/4, right? Just let's convert this into this. So its radius is 34/4 centimeters. And it says how many rounds does it have to make to complete a distance of 55 meters. So this distance is 55 meters, which means 5,500 centimeters. Because this is in centimeters, let's convert this also into centimeters. Now, when it makes a round, this whole circumference will touch. When does it complete one round? Suppose if this point is A, where it's touching, if this is a point A on the circle, to complete one circle, all of this circumference you will cover. So if this is the radius, right? It says this is the radius, right? What is the circumference? 2 pi r, right? So 2 pi r is 2 into pi, let's approximate it to 22/7. R is 35/4. Again, I'm only approximating pi with 22/7 because 7 and 35 cancel out, right? Just a simple approximation. So you can take this as 5. Then you have 44 here, right? You have 44 here. So 44 will become 11. So the circumference is 55. So circumference is 55 centimeters. So given that one circumference equals to one revolution, you have 5500 centimeters to cover, right? To cover 5500 centimeters, it's 5500 by 50, by 55, which is equal to 100 revolutions you have to make. So C is the answer. Very simple, very easy to solve, right? Cool. Very good, very good. So let's go to the fourth one now. Again, this is like a typical 2-mark question in aptitude. This might be slightly trickier than the previous ones, but just think through this carefully. It's actually simple. Let's focus on solving the questions. I'll answer questions about practice, revision, all of that at the end. This is slightly trickier than the previous one, but still fairly easy. Again, just do the math carefully because I see some variability in the answers. So just be careful with that. Again, please excuse my drawing. I'm not too good at it. Okay, I'll wait for some more time as people are still solving it. I haven't seen enough answers in the chat window, so I'll wait for a little while. Okay. Again, this is fairly straightforward, folks. Okay, so I've just drawn these diagrams in the interest of time. So we have a hemispherical. So this is like a hemisphere, half a sphere. Radius is 4. And all this is filled with coffee that you're pouring into a cone, right? With radius of 8 and a height of 16. The question says, what is the volume that remains empty? That's the important part that we have to be careful about. So what is the volume of this? The volume of a sphere is 4 by 3 pi r cube. So volume of a hemisphere is 2 by 3 pi r cube, where r equals to 4, right? Again, the volume of a whole sphere, full sphere, is 4 by 3 pi r cube, right? You can derive this using integration if you recall your 11th and 12th class mathematics, right? You can actually derive this using integration by taking a slice of circle and then rotating it around, right? If you recall your physics problems, at least I recall this from my physics problems in 11th and 12th class math, where you would find center of gravity using integrations. Again, I'm not going to the derivation of this. Similarly, so this is the radius of the sphere or the hemisphere. So what about this? What is the volume of this? It's again very simple. It's 1 by 3 pi r square h. Very simple, standard formulae. Again, you can also derive this by taking a triangle and rotating it and then computing the volume covered, right? Standard integration problem, probably in your 11th and 12th class. I'm sure, of course, you learned this formula in your high school days also without even integration. Probably you by-hearted some of them or derived them using geometry. The only proof that I recall is integration based right now. But anyway, so this is okay. So let's just compute this, right? You have all the numbers. All you have to compute is what is the volume, how much of this volume as a percentage of this volume. It's as simple as that. So let's do this. 2 by 3 pi is 22 by 7, right? And what you have here is actually, let's not even write 22 by 7. Let's just use pi because pi's will cancel out here, right? So 2 by 3 r cube, right? So you have 4 cube into pi. So this whole thing will be equals to 128 pi by 3, right? This is the volume of the hemisphere. Now what about this volume? This volume will be, again, you can just plug in r as the radius of this cone as 8, the height as h. Once you do this, the volume of the cone, you can just plug in these values, you'll get 128 into 8 by 3 pi. Yeah. So because you have h, so you have h as 16, yes. So this is the form that you'll get. Again, this is of course centimeter cube because it's volume, it will be centimeter cube. Now even without solving it, you can see that if you see these two numbers, right? If you see this number and this number is 1/7 of this number because the difference between both of them is just this multiplication factor 8. That's how I've constructed this carefully, right? So the only difference that you have is this 8 here. So if you compare this volume with this volume, even without simplifying the math, you can still solve it quickly by saying, hey, this is 1/7 of this, right? Look, sorry, this is 1/8. I'm sorry, my bad. This is 1/8. So this value is 1/8 of this value, which means if I pour this in this, I'll still be left with 1 minus 1 by 8, which is 7 by 8 of this cup's volume, of this conical cup's volume, right? Because this is 1/8, right? So if I pour this whole volume of coffee into this, only 1/8 will be filled, 7/8 will still be empty. And 7 by 8 is equal to 87.5%. Very simple, right? If you think about it. Straightforward question. Of course, the key here is knowing this simple formulae. Again, quick revision, you can get these formulae, not very hard. I would argue that you can even derive them with a little bit of practice. But if you don't know the formulae, I think you're a little lost here. Okay, so that's why this is a little bit tricky question, little bit on the 2 mark side. Okay, so let's go here. Again, this is like a 1 mark question of data interpretation. Just read the numbers, read the question, see the chart that's given carefully. Okay, just for your benefit, let me write these numbers. This is 81 degrees, this is 54 degrees, this is 72 degrees. Okay, let me write this in a different color. This is 72 degrees, this is 108 degrees, this is 45 degrees. I'm just writing it in a bigger font for your benefit. Just read the question carefully. This is very simple, right? Anyway, take your time, read through the question. While the question looks lengthy and looks complicated, it's actually very simple. Please read the question carefully. please read the question carefully. I see some of you making silly mistake. Write down what x is in an equation form so that you don't mess it up. Okay, cool. So most of you got it, still people are getting confused. Let's look at what is being asked here. In the proposed outlay of irrigation, so in the proposed outlay, irrigation is X% of the proposed outlay of agriculture. So irrigation is X% of agriculture. What is X? Now if you see agriculture, agriculture is 108 degrees. Just use the degrees because whatever amount is allocated from these 40,000 crores will be proportional to these degrees, right? So this is agriculture is 108 degrees. Your I, which is I think irrigation, right? Irrigation is 54 degrees. So 50, again, whatever amount you are spending, right? It will be proportional to this 54, it's 54, it's proportional to 54 degrees. So 54 degrees is X% of 108 degrees. What is X now? It is 50%, right? It is 50%, 54 degrees is half of 108 degrees. So this is the right answer. Some of you have answered 15%. I think you misread this question. Okay, I think some of you, what you've done here is, you've done 54 by 360. I think this is what you have done or something. Yeah, I think something like this you have done to arrive at the 15%. But we are not asking what is 54 as part of the total budget. Look, read this question carefully here. That is the important part. Your irrigation is X% of agriculture. Agriculture is whatever spent on agriculture is proportional to 108 degrees. Spend on irrigation is proportional to 54 degrees, which means X is going to be 50%. Very simple. So if you misread the question, this is like you can literally read the question in 5 seconds, you can answer it once you have read the question. Reading the question itself might take another 20 seconds. But if you don't read it carefully, you'll make mistakes. So please be careful with this. Very simple question. Again, it's not tricky. You just read it. A lot of people don't read questions carefully. It's easy. It's a 1 mark question intentionally. So don't take, so the lesson is don't take aptitude lightly. There could be a small twist in the question. Again, this is a 2 mark question. This is slightly trickier because you have to try various options to find the odd one out here. This took a little more time for me when I was solving it. Again, those of you who are putting your answers as 12, 25, 53 or 179, can you give a simple reasoning why? Because for such questions, sometimes there could be multiple answers. Sometimes. Because the series formulation that you have found could be different from what I have discovered and thereby making it different. So those of you who are saying whatever number, can you please elaborate why that is the answer? Because for some time, if you find a completely different pattern in these numbers that the gate examiners haven't found, you can you can give that explanation and they typically tend to award you marks if your explanation is genuine. So please put down why. Some of you are saying 53, some of you are saying 179, why? Somebody is saying difference between numbers is a square. No, difference between 10 and 12 is 2. It's not a perfect square. Difference between these two is a perfect square. Difference between these two is a perfect square. But difference between these two is not a perfect square. So those of you who are saying 53 or 25 or 179 or 12, please give a justification. So somebody is saying 53 is a prime. Okay. But what we said, if you see this question, right, we are not looking at this as a set. We are looking at this as a series. Right? The very fact here, so some of you are saying, hey, 53 is a prime number here, right? While others are not. But then please understand that the series part is important here. Series basically means there is some mathematical formulation you get, which you apply on top of this to get this, then this, then this, then this, then this. We are not treating them as a set. We are treating them as a sequence or a series here. So there's a fundamental difference there. So if you say, hey, answer is 53 because it's prime, the gate examiners, 99% they will not award you marks because they'll say, hey, we did not say that this is a set of numbers. We said this is a series of numbers. Okay, so just think about that. I think somebody is also saying 179 is a prime. I have to check that. I think there is some general question about gate from Rappiano. Please post it at the end. I'll answer that. Okay, so somebody said, I think 179 is also prime. I'll have to verify that myself. Cool. I don't see any logic that anybody has put in till now, which I'm justified with. Difference between 25 and 16 is also odd. So, again, we have to look at sequence, right? Again, this is intentionally 2 marks. This is one of those few questions you'll get with little trick. So I struggled through this. It took me some time to solve it because I've not solved these types of problems for a very long time. So look at this. From 10, right, I have a difference of 2 to get to 12. Okay. From 12, I have a difference of 4. Again, I also thought very similar to what you're saying, right? Then to get to 25, I have a difference of 9. To get to 53, I have a difference of, what is the difference that I have here? 25 plus 25, so 28 is what I have. Then I have 179 here. This difference is quite large, so it is 126, right? So it's 126, yeah. So the question here is this: how do I justify these? These numbers don't seem to follow any pattern. So I struggled through this. I said, okay, can I somehow break this down? One pattern that I found when I was solving it is, okay, I can write this 2 as 1 plus 1 factorial. Okay. I can write this 4 now as 2 plus 2 factorial. Okay. I can write this 9. I was trying to use these factorials because I could not get them into any other format. Okay. So then I said, okay, 3 factorial plus 3 is 9. Things were, again, this is 4 plus 4 factorial, right? See, if you see, because I could not get a simple explanation, I was trying to break this down into factorials. Then I said, hey, if this sequence follows, so 10 plus 1 factorial is 12, 12 plus 2 factorial is 16, 16 plus 3 factorial is this plus this is this. Now can I justify this? Till now everything is following. So now if I have 5 plus 5 factorial here on top of 53, then I should get a number which is 178 and not 179, right? So in my analysis, when I was struggling through and solving this took me about 2 to 3 minutes. The answer that I got was D. But to be honest with you, this may not be the only answer. You could find some other formulation or some other methodology through which you can get this, right? So sometimes if you can find, again, this series part is very important. You can't ignore that. You can't treat them as a set, right? So this is slightly tricky. Intentionally, you will find some 2 to 4 marks, typically more like 4 marks, 3 to 4 marks in the gate, which is slightly tricky. Again, this took a lot of playing around. When I was solving it, as I told you, right, I was trying, I think it took me about 2 to 3 minutes. I didn't have a timer specifically, but I followed the very similar steps that you guys did. What is the difference between them? How can I justify this difference? I realized that these are somewhere in the exponents, but then pure exponents were not working. This is 2 power 1, 2 power 2, this is 2 power 3 plus 1. This is not 2 power 4 plus anything. So I could not get them into exponents. So one other trick that I thought of is maybe factorials, and factorials actually worked after a couple of tries. Again, people solve this in the examination. Don't say it cannot be solved in examination. People do solve these in examinations. It takes a little bit, again, they can't give everything simple questions, right? Some questions have to be hard, right? Cool. Okay, so typical, like what do you call it, verbal aptitude. Again, we have a couple of more mathematical aptitude questions that will come to a little later. Sahil, a very nice point that you mentioned for the previous question. Whenever you see large differences, think in terms of multiplications, exponentiations, factorials, all of that. That's true, that's true. This is very simple. Again, if you have played any sport, this is more or less straightforward. Cool. So this is very simple. In cricket, you get out on a duck. Okay. Again, I'm not a cricket guy. It's been years I've watched a cricket match. I think duck. Correct me if I'm wrong. Many of you would know more cricket than me. I think somebody who scores 0 runs is said to be out on a duck or something like that, right? On basketball, a dunk. This I know because I've played basketball during my school days quite extensively. So dunk is basically when you take a ball and you dunk it onto the ring, right? Again, I can't do it now, but there was a time when I could barely do it, barely. So yes, dunk is something that you do in a basketball, right? Very simple. Again, if you don't know this, you can't do it, okay? So again, to be honest with you, if I did not know the sport of cricket or if I did not know the sport of basketball, I wouldn't have been able to answer this. So in such a case, you might, because there is negative marking because it's an MCQ, you might as well skip it. Cool. Okay, here is another very typical verbal type of question. Just read this question, very simple questions here. The previous question is called an analogy question in verbal ability. Saurabh, I think you have a question about some specific topic. Please email us or cut a ticket so that we can answer exactly what your confusion or doubt is about. Read the question carefully. This is actually very nice types of questions about assumptions and whether they're implicit or not. I see a lot of variability. Think about it. This is a very logical type of question. Read this question carefully. There is not any crazy. This is pure logic. This is not like some complex English question, right? Think logically. This is pure logic. If you've understood the statement and the assumptions, it's all about purely applying logic. Try to contradict your own assumptions. Okay, so let me answer this, right? So Shyamal wrote a letter to his friend, right? Shyamal wrote a letter to his friend. After a couple of months, as he did not receive the reply for his first letter, so he sent a first letter, he did not receive a reply, so he sent the second one. Now, which of these assumptions are implicitly made in this statement? Okay, his friend promptly sends a reply to his letter. So Shyam, or Shyamal in this case, right? Why did he send a second one? If you think about it logically, Shyamal is implicitly assuming, right? What is implicitly assumed? Shyamal is basically very confident that he would typically get a reply from his friend. And the fact that his friend hasn't replied forced him to send the second one. So assumption 1 is actually implicit. Because Shyamal is implicitly, that's implicit in the state, it's not explicitly stated. But if you read this carefully, the very fact that he sent the second letter after a couple of months is because he expects his friend to promptly send a reply. He did not get it, so he sent the mail again. So he sent the email or letter again. So 1 seems to be the right implicit assumption. 2 is the tricky case. His friend did not receive the letter. How can we say that? We cannot be very sure of this. This is not implicit, because it could have happened that his friend received this first letter, but his friend is busy with something else and hence he did not reply. Right? It is, again, some of you might say, hey, 2 is also right, but 2 could also be wrong. Right? Typically, the only assumption that holds in all the cases, the only implicit assumption is Shyamal typically whenever he sends a letter to his friend, his friend typically replies back. The fact that he did not reply could mean multiple things. This is one option, but this is not always true. Okay, it could just be that his friend is busy and hence not replied. So this is not always true. The letter takes a week to reach his friend. Again, nothing about the duration of travel is mentioned here. Nothing is mentioned, right? So only 1 is implicit, others are not implicit in this statement, right? This is again, you have to think through it slightly carefully. Okay, so somebody saying, hey, 1 also could be wrong. Can you please elaborate why? Because the very fact that Shyamal sent a first letter he's implicitly assuming that his friend, because he knows that his friend typically sends a message or a letter back very quickly. The fact that he did not send forced him to send the second one. That's implicit here, right? That's why that's the reason why he sent the second one, thinking, hey, I don't know what happened. One possibility is that he did not receive it. Other possibility is probably he was busy with something else. So only one is implicit, two is not. This is slightly tricky, but you have to think of all the cases in this. It's all about verbal ability and logical thinking, right? Think of all the cases. Cool. One second. So somebody says, how can we say that this is implicit? The fact that Shamal wrote the second letter. Okay, look at this. Shamal has sent a first letter to his friend. He typically expects a prompt reply. The fact that he did not get it forced him to send the second letter or second email, right? So that is implicitly there, right? Otherwise, why would he send the second email? If he knows that his friend is not going to reply, he would actually say, hey, probably that guy doesn't care about me. Why would I bother about sending a second one, right? Logically, if you think about it, right? So the only implicit assumption that is valid in all cases is 1, not 2 and 3. Again, in the second case, right, there is a possibility. I'm not saying there is no possibility of this, but this is not 100% certain. This is not 100% certain. There is a possibility that the friend did not receive and hence he did not reply. There are other possibilities also that the friend is busy with some other work and hence he could not reply. So you have to think of full certainty in terms of what is implicit. Okay. Okay. Again, just think about this a little more after the session. In case there is any question, do email us and we can clarify it beyond that. Cool. Okay. Again, a very similar type of problem. Again, this is about implicit assumptions and things like that. This is the easier variety of it. This is a simpler variety of the previous problem, so think about it. Okay, cool. So let's solve this, right? So the statement here says the airlines named Air India has decided to increase the airfare by 10% with immediate effect. Nothing else is given, only this. It's literally like a simple statement that's given. These are the assumptions. Other airlines may increase the price of the ticket. Not necessary. Other airlines, this is not an implicit assumption. Because other airlines, Air India may be in loss, like the way it is currently in, and hence to survive, they want to probably, because it's taken over by Tatas might want to make it a premium airline, right? And hence they're increasing the price with better services. Other airlines who are working in, let's say, more economical section, right? Who want to have cheaper airlines, right? May not have too many services, but still takes you from point A to point B. So other airlines may not increase. Right? Not necessarily they will always increase. So 1 is not true. What about 2? The demand for seats of airlines may remain unchanged even after the hike in airfares. So the demand in seats of airlines may remain unchanged. The demand for seats in the airlines may remain unchanged even after the hike in the airfares. Again, you're not sure of this because you're increasing the price. So probably people who are more price conscious may not actually try to book Air India tickets, and hence the demand is coming down for these air tickets. So this is also not guaranteed. So if you think about it, neither one nor two is implicit in this in any way. You can't assume. So this statement is not made assuming one or two implicitly, right? So D seems to be the most general answer. Okay, cool. Okay, so this is another type of question here. Again, all these questions are MCQs unless otherwise stated. Think about these pictures. This is also a nice question. Simple one, but nice one. This is about geometric pattern fitting. I think the difference between this piece 2 and 4 is just this height. So again, look at these pieces, right? Just be careful with them. Imtrix, can you email us your question, because we've already moved on from that question. Going back will disturb others who are solving this. Again, simple geometry pattern type of question. Okay, sounds good. I think most of you got it right. Some of you are confused, were initially confused about this height versus this height. So just be careful in the actual examination. So if I take this and plug it here, right? So this will actually fit. So you can actually, like, one thing that I actually did while solving this was I just took my fingers on the screen and placed them. Okay, so I literally took my two fingers and said, hey, what is the distance between both of them? I would actually place it here. I just took two of my fingers and did it just to make sure whether 2 should be or 4 should be. Simple, like, physical hack. So one fit, so this length fits much better here. It doesn't fit here. If you just measure it with your fingers on your phone or your, because it's a computer based test, right? You can always touch the computer screen. So that's what I did just to make sure whether it's 2 or 4. So what ended up was 1, when it fixed with this, you get this shape. This is 1, this is 2, and then this slope is roughly the same as this. So when you combine 2 with 5, you'll get a proper rectangle. That's what you're looking for, right? So 1, 2, 5 is the right answer here. 1, 2, 4, how can it be 1, 2, 4? 1, 2, 4 will not solve. It is 1, 2, 5. Again, this 2 versus 4, right? That you have to be slightly careful with. Let me just show you this. So I literally measured like this with my fingers, right? I said, okay, this is this much length. Does it fit here? Just trying to show you visually. That's what I did just to make sure that I'm right, or at least I'm sensible when I'm solving it. Okay, cool. So with that, let's go to the next question. This is also a very typical type of question in GATE. This is again in verbal ability, ordering the sentences. You have to order these ABCD sentences properly. Again, this is the initial sentence given. After this, you have to fill these sentences, ABCDs. Again, just read each of the sentences. Suppose if you say option B is correct, right? Read the sentences in that order so that you know what's happening. Just make sure that the flow of sentences is sensible. One sentence should connect to the previous sentence and the next sentence logically. That's the key of solving these types of questions. Okay, I see quite a lot of variability in the answers. So let's go and solve it, right? So the initial sentence given to us is during monsoon when humidity is high, okay, we often do not drink the required amount of water which can cause dehydration. Okay, sensible, cool. Okay, so then you have these four sentences. Now let's look at the options. The first option here starts with C, the first option starts with A. Since it's an MCQ, let's try to eliminate options. What does C say? C says the lime juice, which is in vitamin C, can improve our immunity in the monsoon season. Again, this sentence C doesn't fit naturally as the first sentence after this, because this sentence is talking about dehydration, humidity being high and all of that. This sentence is talking about lime juice, which is not yet connected to the previous sentence, right? It doesn't logically follow the given sentence. So that will help me eliminate A and B. Now let's look at these options. In these two options, you have A and D as the first two sentences. So what is A now? A says, okay, so because you eliminated this, both these options have A and D. So what is A? So let's read whether A also makes sense. During monsoon, when humidity is high, we often do not drink required amount of water, which may cause dehydration. Consuming an adequate amount of water and other liquids a day is essential to keep our organs working. Makes sense, because we talked about monsoon season, humidity being high, not drinking water, dehydration, etc. Sentence A makes a logical follow up to this, because it's also talking about drinking sufficient amount of water. It says why we should drink, because our organs, multiple organs have to work well. Then it says, let's go to D now, right? So let's go to D. So A fits naturally. Then what about D? It is suggested that people should drink different types of juices. Now after saying that we have to consume water, it's saying consume water through different juices and drinks to keep themselves hydrated. Makes logical sense, follows very logically. Then you have a choice between B and C. Okay, so let's see, it can either be CB or BC. Now what is B saying? Adding some salt, spices and lemon can make water more palatable. Okay, so here it says it is suggested to drink different types of water. Okay, so B is one option you have. What about C? C is saying the lime juice, which is high in vitamin C, can improve immunity in the monsoon season. Now, Now look at this, right? So here, if you think logically, after A and D, you have this choice between B and C. Okay, it's a slightly tricky choice that you have to think through a little more carefully. So if you place B and C versus C and B, there are two options here, right? If you say B and C, sentence D is talking about drinking different types of juices and drinks, right? Then because you have to consume all these drinks, nobody wants to drink just plain water, right? So adding some salt, spices, lemonade, right? All of lemon or anything like that, this makes logical sense. Now if you have B followed by C, because you say lemon here, in the next line you're talking about why lemon is good. First you're saying one way to consume lot of drinks or lot of juices is to make it spicy, salty, lemony and all that. And then you're saying, hey, lemon is a very good option because it is high in vitamin C. So logically speaking, BC makes more sense than CB, because in C, so suppose if you say ADCB, then you're talking about the benefits of lime juice without this connection sentence here. It makes far more logical sense to say, hey, first I will say that lime is one of the options along with salt and spices, and then I'll talk about the benefits of lemon as compared to other salts and spices, or jaljeera, right? In North India, people drink sattu, jaljeera, all these things, right? So in South India, we drink buttermilk most of the times. So all these are variations that you can drink, especially in summer. Monsoon, unfortunately, we all drink less, right? Cool. So BC is a more logical flow than a CB. So that's why D is the right answer here. Okay, cool. So let's go to the 12th question now. Very simple, like a passage. You typically have one question like this where you're given a simple passage and you're asked a simple question like this. Again, these are much simpler than what you encounter in CAT or any other competitive exam. Very simple. A very simple question. Straightforward question actually. It's like a trivial 1 mark question. So for the previous question, you can just scroll the video back. I answered that D is the right answer after working through that logic. So you can just go a little back and see that. You'll be able to see that in this video. Very good, very good. This is a very straightforward question. Okay, I'll quickly answer this because we have two more very interesting, slightly trickier questions in mathematical aptitude. So here you have this whole sentence. It says Ramit likes the machine as he thought it would improve his efficiency and creativity. Why did Ramit like this machine? Because of this. C is the right answer. Right? Very simple question, fairly straightforward. Right? It's literally like a 1 mark giveaway for you. Literally giving away as long as you can read and understand this basic English paragraph. Okay, very simple question. Nothing very fancy here. Okay, cool. So let's go to a couple of more interesting questions. Okay, so this is like a 2 mark question. This is mathematical aptitude. Slightly on the trickier side. So you will encounter 3 to 4 marks of these types of slightly trickier questions. Please work it out carefully. Draw diagrams and think through. Otherwise, it's very likely that you'll make a mistake here. Again, just rethink about this question. I see some of you putting your answers, but I was getting a slightly different answer. Maybe I've made a mistake, but most likely no. Think about this. Can somebody explain how you got the option that you are putting in the chat window? Please don't be in a hurry. Think through this carefully, please. Again, you have a semicircle, right? And you're trying to construct a cone out of it. Ask yourself, how will you fold this to construct? So you have a semicircular sheet of diameter 28 centimeters. Let's say this is A, this is B, this is some O, right? How do you construct a cone with this? Think about that carefully. Again, this is 14, obviously, because the diameter is 28. So this is also 14. How do you construct a cone out of this semicircle? The question says, what is the depth of the cone? What is the depth of the cup that is built, or the conic cup that you've built? You've built a cone like this, right? So it says, what is the depth of this cup? This depth or height of the cup. That's why draw diagrams. I see many of you who said 14 as the answer. I think it is incorrect. Again, we'll solve it together. Don't take aptitude problems too easily also. There will be a few questions which are slightly trickier, which you have to think through a little more. I'm just seeing if I have a semicircular sheet somewhere to show you. Think about it. I see a lot of you making mistakes here, so I want you to think about it a little more. So let me show you a small visualization. I don't have a cone handy with me, so I don't even have a semicircle. Let's assume we have something like this, right? Instead of a triangle, let's just assume, instead of a triangle, I've just taken, let's assume this is circular, just for simplicity, right? Now given this, it's not a triangle, okay? Let's assume this is a semicircle. I don't have a semicircular sheet with me, okay? So how do you construct, so given this, how do you construct your cone with this? You fold it like this and you get a cone like this, right? Again, if this was circular, this would have been a perfect circle. Remember, if this was circular, if this whole top thing was circular, you just fold it like this. Okay, you fold it like this, like the way you make a samosa, right? That's how we stuff samosas, right? So you get a circular one. So what happens is this side is 14, which means this height has to be less than 14, right? Think about it logically. Again, just to show you again, sorry, my bad. Okay, I think I made a small mistake somewhere and I changed the page. Okay, so we are at this question, right? Okay, sorry, my bad. Okay, we are here. Look at this. When we try to construct a cone out of it, we will take this side, and so, okay, so the way it look like this is this. This will become O, this O will come here. This A and B, so you'll take this O, you'll combine this A and B, right? You'll place A and B at the same location now. So A will be here, B will also be here. If you mark this point as A, mark this point as B, you're taking this and rolling it up, right? Now this is how you get a cone. You get a circular cone using this, isn't it? Again, this is 14, which means this will be 14 and this will be 14, which means this height has to be less than 14 for God's sake. Again, this whole rim that you have, this semicircle you have, became this circle here. Now think about it. I think I've almost answered the question for you. I'm very surprised that only a handful of people got correct answer before this explanation started. This is actually fairly doable. If you think carefully, it's straightforward actually. You just have to think, how do you build a cone from a semicircle? And then everything falls into the place. Okay, so let me solve it since we have spent ample time here. So this AO is this. This again, what you're doing here is this O became this point in the cone. This A and B, you have combined it. So what is the circumference here? Look at the circumference, right? The circumference is 2 pi r. The circumference also became this circumference. Okay, so this circumference now is 2 into 22 by 7 into r. What is r here? 14. Okay, that's what it is, right? 2 into so this is equal to this. So this will be equal to, sorry, it's not 2 pi r, it's only pi r. I'm sorry, it's not 2 pi r, it's only pi r because it's semicircle, no? What am I saying? This is a semicircle, so this r is 14, which means this whole semicircle is pi r. Pi is 22 by 7, r is 14. So this will make it 44 centimeters. This whole thing is 44 centimeters. That 44 centimeters became this 44 centimeters now. Okay, so for this circle that you have, this circle circumference is also 44 centimeters. What will this radius be? Let's call this as r dash. This r dash now will be, again, you have the circumference, you have to compute this r dash, right? So this circumference 44. Okay, so let's write it this way, right? So this 44 is also equals to 2 into pi into this r dash. Okay, so this is 2 into 22 by 7 into r dash equals to 44, which means this r dash has to be equal to 7. Very simple math, right? This r dash has to be equal to 7 for everything to work out, right? Then this 7 will cancel out and you'll get this. So this is 7, this length is 7. We know that this length is 14. So what is this height, which is nothing but the depth of the cup? This whole thing, right? This whole thing is 14 square minus 7 square under root. And if you just plug it into a calculator, you'll get some 12 point something, 12.1 or something like that. So 12 is the approximate answer here. Very simple. Okay, I don't know why some of you struggled so much to get this, but it is straightforward, right? It is just 12.1 or something like that. So the nearest answer is 12. Very simple. So the only trick in this is, given this, how do you construct a cone from a semicircle cleanly? That's it. Once you get that, it's straightforward. That might take a minute or so to digest, little like the samosa making, right? If you've ever seen your mother or if you have made samosa yourself, this is straightforward, right? Very simple. Cool. Okay, so let's go to the last question of the day. This is also a very nice question. This is also a good 2 marks question in GATE. This is the last question of the day. Again, please solve this carefully. Don't think every question will be easy. Aniket, if you fold the way you said, you will not get a perfect cone. You will get an overlapping cone. You want a perfect cone from a semicircle, right? You don't want cone that is overlapping with itself. Anyway, let's solve this question now. Again, draw diagrams, think through carefully from first principles. That's very, very important for this. Again, a lot of high school students can solve this question. 9th, 10th class kids can solve this. Even the previous one for that matter. So let me just draw the diagram. So you have a square and you have a circle that's inscribed on this, inscribed in the square. Okay, so let me draw this carefully. I'm very bad at these circles. You just draw it roughly. Okay, you have a circle inscribed in it and you have an equilateral triangle inscribed in this. Okay, so these are the 3 things that you have. Okay, so you have, let's say, A, B, C, D. What you're given is, this is the diagonal. Okay, anyway, solve it please. So what's being asked is this distance D. Draw the diagram, you'll be able to solve it. It's all about figuring what you have and what else can you compute with the information that you have. That's all it boils down to. Good, good, good. Good. I'm happy that you're solving it. I was really shocked with the previous problem, that so few of you have solved it. This is the center of the circle. Very good, very good. Most of you are getting it right. Some of you are probably making some silly mistakes. Karan, yes. So for the mock test tomorrow, even if the whole syllabus is not finished, please try and take it so that you know, at least in the syllabus that you have completed, where you stand. And in the syllabus that you have not completed, how many marks can you score? Okay, cool. So let's answer this question, right? Okay, so let's solve this. You've drawn the diagrams, fairly simple. What you're given is this diagonal. You're given that this, again, this is a square. So this side equals to this side equals to this side equals to this. And this is BD. This is 12 root 2. BD. This is equal to BD, which is equals to AC also, because it's a square, right? So BD is 12 root 2, which means this will be 12, this will be 12. Because again, simple Pythagoras theorem, right? This side is equal to this side. And if this is 12 root 2, this will be 12 and 12. Very simple, right? Number one, that's what you first got. Now, if this is 12, look at this. This whole, the diameter of, so let's look at it from the circle's perspective. What is the diameter of the circle? The diameter of the circle is 12, which means the radius equals to 6. If the radius equals to 6, if you now draw this, right? If you draw this is equals to 6, this is equals to 6, this is also equals to 6, right? Very simple. Now let's look at it from the triangle's perspective. If you look at the triangle's perspective now, again, when I drew this line, look at this, when I drew this line, I have actually bisected, or I have divided this angle into two equal parts. Look at, this is an equilateral triangle. Let's not forget that, right? So this triangle that you have, let's call it XYZ. This XYZ is an equilateral triangle, which means this whole angle is 60 degrees. And by drawing this type of structure, this is 30 and this is 30. So let's draw the triangle here. Okay, if you draw the triangle, if you draw this triangle now, if you draw this triangle, because you want to compute D, right? You have B, you have B. This angle is 30 degrees. This angle is 30 degrees, right? Because this is 60 degrees, this will be 120 degrees. Obviously, what you want is this D now. How do you compute D? Again, simple geometry, right? So if you draw this again, if you bisect this again, if you break it into two parts, this thing will be D by 2, this thing will be D by 2. Now just use basic trigonometry. This is 30 degrees, right? So what is cos 30 degrees? Cos 30 degrees will be D by 2 divided by B. And what is B? B is nothing but 6, or it's actually not B, it's actually 6. This is actually 6 centimeters. This is the radius of the circle, right? So this divided by 6, which means this by 6 will become D by 12, right? So if you think about it, cos 30 degrees, what is cos 30 degrees? Root 3 by 2, right? This is your 11th class or 10th class trigonometry, right? So root 3 by 2 is D by 12, which means D equals to 12 root 3 by 2, which is 6 root 3. Simple, right? So your answer here is C. Very simple, right? So cool. With that, we'll wrap up today's questions and let's get into the general Q&A. Please post your questions in the chat window. I'll try to answer as many as possible. Cool. Okay. So Gaurav says, I've completed the whole syllabus, but I'm not fully confident about taking the test. And he has also revised multiple times. Don't worry. Nobody is judging you by it, right? Just give your best. Use it as a learning experience. As we have mentioned in the video, when we asked you to take it without failure, look at it. Don't share your results with anyone. Just look at it as a learning experience for yourself. Understanding where you're lacking, where your energy should be spent. It's only for your benefit. So what is the approximate marks required to be in the top 100? I don't know. We'll have to see that empirically tomorrow when the exam is conducted. Right? Cool. So Anubhav says, I'm not comfortable with aptitude preparation. I'm only able to solve 5 to 6 questions of 14 questions today. Anubhav, my suggestion here is, again, if you're a course enrolled student, please solve the practice tests, the course content that we have, please watch it so that you become more confident. If you want additional practice, we can always give you more practice. Another simple thing is, there are these standard textbooks written by R.S. Agarwal, right? Mostly for competitive exams and for high school students. Just take some of those problems and solve them. Right? It's as simple as that. Just like any other subject, aptitude, the trick is draw diagrams, think from first principles, don't go with formulae, think from first principles and you can solve it fairly simply. Okay, cool. Akash says, we need a motivational video. If you're looking for motivation from external sources, you're not preparing yourself correctly. I think I've mentioned this multiple times. Motivation is like that, like a high that you get, right? After alcohol or anything like that, which stays for 10 minutes or maybe for a few hours. It is not consistent. Okay. It is only through disciplined hard work that you will get good rank. I can give you a motivational speech and that's useless because it will not benefit anyone. A more realistic path, because I've seen so much of motivation in my own life, it doesn't work out in the long run. What works out is disciplined hard work. Nothing beats that. And that's a well-known formula for success. Put in constant amount of time and things like that. We will certainly tell you about what strategies you can employ with about 100 days to prepare for. We'll surely do that. Cool. When should I complete my syllabus and do practice? Again, there is no one right time to complete your syllabus, but we strongly recommend that you finish your syllabus in the worst case by late December, in the worst case, so that you're spending good amount of time in January and early February for good thorough revision and solving a lot of tests. So ideally, try and finish it by late December, worst case, first week of January. Don't delay it beyond that. That's what we would recommend, because you need at least one good amount of time, one good month of time to revise thoroughly everything, because the challenge in GATE syllabus is the vastness. Alpan, very nice question. This is, sorry, not Alpan, Alapan, sorry. So if you're getting less marks, don't worry. Please don't compare your results with others' results. If you're getting less marks, make it a source of motivation that yes, I'm lacking behind. I know I'm lacking behind in these topics. Let me give my fullest for the next 3.5 to 4 months. Okay, don't use it as a source of demotivation. We have seen people who have not done well in the first couple of mock tests last year, but who ended up in the top 100 when the actual examination happened. We have seen people who hardly scored 40 marks, 45 marks in the first mock test, even the second mock test, but they took the lessons from it to understand where they're lacking and where they need to improve. And they've been in top 100 ranks last year, right? So don't use it as a source of demotivation, use it as a source of motivation to say, now is the time I need to buckle up. Cool. So Lahari says, can I neglect DLD for final GATE exam? Please don't do it. The reason being, it's one of the simpler subjects, easy to score, very few concepts, typically easy questions. Why are you leaving like 5 marks on the table? It's actually one of the easier topics and subjects to score marks in. So don't leave it. So Abdul says, what's the strategy for learning subjects like DBMS, CN, COOS? Again, just like any other subject, draw diagrams, understand the concepts, understand how everything is working from first principles, whether you're learning a B+ tree in databases, or you're learning how memory mapping is happening in computer organization, or how virtual memory operates in operating system. Just try to get that first principles thinking, right? And then it's all about first principles problem solving. That's what GATE is all about, right? So there is no one strategy. It's all about learn the concepts, practice, see others solve problems, like we have a lot of solved problems, practice, and that's it. That process does not change. The only additional suggestion I can give you, especially for CO, also for operating system to some extent and CN, is to draw diagrams. We do it all the time in all this. Like you can see some of the sessions we have done when we solve problems in operating systems and CO, we draw a lot of diagrams just to make sure that we are understanding what is being asked and how we can solve it very thoroughly. Cool. So Nihal, if there are some topics where you're consistently making mistakes, right? I hope you're making a note of those mistakes, revise those mistakes as part of your revision. I mean, this is a brilliant strategy, because oftentimes we make a mistake, we don't learn from that mistake. The moment you add that mistake in your short notes and revise it as part of your regular revision strategy, you understand that, hey, the moment you see a similar question, just wake up and say, hey, I've done this mistake in the past, I will be double careful today. Because this is something, because I used to commit a lot of silly mistakes and I've improved through this process. Okay, cool. So should I give 3-hour time in tomorrow's exam as I completed 50 to 60% of the syllabus? That's okay. Go ahead, give the full time, solve as many questions, even topics that you don't know, try and tackle them as best as you can. So Amin says, where to practice during revision? If I attempt mock test, then I'll get very, very less marks. Don't worry about it. See, there are tons of places to practice. If you're a course enrolled student, you have close to 5,000 questions to practice from. In addition to that, you have all the previous year questions, right? So this 5,000 questions don't include the previous year questions. If you're not a course enrolled student, previous year questions are a great resource to practice from in general, right? So don't worry about it. Try and give your best. Again, don't use tomorrow's examination as a source of demotivation. Use it as a source to self-introspect and understand where you stand. That's super duper important. So Akash says, what to do if I exhaust applied gate tests by December? Do reach out to us. We'll point you to more resources and focus on those problems that you have committed mistakes in the past. Again, most people commit, even the most brilliant of students commit mistakes in 20 to 30%, minimum 20 to 30% of the questions. Go back to those questions and tackle them. Right? That's what we would recommend. So when will be the second iteration? Again, we are still planning for it. We will announce it on this channel. Some of these live sessions will be available publicly, and some of these will be available for the course enrolled students. Is it important to have short notes? We strongly recommend you have. Your short notes could be as simple as take the notes that we provide and highlight it and make some scribbles on it. That could be your short notes. That was always my short notes. The objective of short notes is, can you revise a whole subject in about 4 hours? That's the objective. If you have long notes from which you think you can revise in 4 hours, that's cool. You don't require short notes anymore. So Pawan says, I'm told that there are 1,000+ practice questions in the course. That's just practice questions. Then you have subject tests, multi-topic tests, topic tests, test series last year, test series this year. All of that included comes to almost 5,000 questions. In case there is a doubt, please email us. So Prashant says, I'm still remaining with math, CN and COA. Taking time to complete because of the job. What do you suggest to complete early? I would strongly recommend you finish math because it's more scoring than CN and COA. Even CN and COA, there are some topics which are easier to score. Try to finish them after you finish math. Prioritize math. Cool. Okay, I'm just looking at the chat window. So Nayan says, I'm left with one subject. I want to start revision. What should be my strategy? Simple. When you're revising, right, go through your long notes. Make sure you understand everything. Also go through some of the mistakes that you've committed when you're solving practice questions while learning the concepts. Start taking topic tests, subject tests from the test series of last year and this year, if you're a course enrolled student. After every test, spend good amount of time debugging your mistakes and understanding why you committed that mistake. That is the most important part of revision. Revision is not just about going through your notes and be done. No. Revise, solve a bunch of problems for every topic and subject. If possible, take a full-length test if you're very confident about all the subjects. All the mistakes that you're committing, go back and see why you're committing that. So revision also involves relearning some concepts. Cool. So Janak says, I'm getting about 50% marks in topic tests and my syllabus is complete. What should be my strategy? Janak, as we often recommend, the remaining 50%, look at why you're making those mistakes. One reason could be you've forgotten the topic. Go back and revise from your notes. Other is you have a conceptual gap. Go back and watch those videos, look at the solved problems from those topics and come back. Third, you're making silly mistakes. Make a note of it in your notes and revise and make sure you're going through those mistakes when you're tackling the same subject again as part of your revision strategy. I'm trying to drop one subject out of CN and COA. Any suggestions? Sudhanshu, I would not recommend you drop a whole subject. There will be some topics in COA which are easy to score, like memory mapping and stuff like that. Similarly in CN, data link layer, all of these are simple to score. So pick up those areas from both the topics which are easier to score, right? And don't skip a whole subject. You can skip some topics in a subject because even if you take CN or COA, you'll get a few questions which are easy to score. Why skip them completely? Because they're easy to start with. Cool. Okay. Should we revise the solved problems and the practice test questions while revision? Yes, if possible. Akash, as you rightly pointed out, at least revise those questions where you committed mistakes and understand where you committed. Make sure that you can solve that problem from first principles thoroughly if a similar problem arises now. Right? That's very, very helpful in the revision part. So as far as the projects, there is a question about the projects. We are uploading the desktop and mobile search videos. We have started uploading them just today, sometime later half of today. So you'll have most of those videos for the second course by early next week, late this week. This week is finishing by tomorrow. So you'll have most of those videos by early next week. And the third project is sort of like a more hands-on, interesting stuff that we will upload hopefully by end of next week or early the week after that. One project very thoroughly solved has been uploaded where we learn everything from Elasticsearch to Docker, all of that stuff we have learned, right? So the second project, we're just uploading them. So most of the videos are recorded. There is a little bit of code walkthrough that is yet to be recorded. We'll post it for the placement prep students by most likely Monday. Hopefully before that, if we can by tomorrow end of day. Sure. So we will surely post notifications, or we'll send you emails or post it on our YouTube channel as and when there are other examinations after GATE. Typically what happens is GATE is the first exam in the series of exams for master's degree. Once GATE exam is over, then you have IIIT, etc. IIIT, ISI and all this. So we'll keep you informed on that. Don't worry. Okay, folks, I think those were most of the questions that students had. Again, in a public live session, it's impossible to answer all the questions. Please make sure, the most important thing is practice, practice, practice going forward. Number one. Number two, don't get demotivated, because the next 3.5 to 4 months is the most important time that you have. Again, it's the same thing. Dedicate enough hours, practice, finish the subjects that you have done, revise. It's the same thing that I think I've been repeating over and over again for the last 6 months. The strategies don't change. It's just that you have to accelerate in case you're lacking behind. And all the very best for the All India mock test tomorrow. I hope all of you give it a good attempt. Don't bother about the results. Give your exam, look at your marks, debug your examination. This is only for your benefit. Don't try to compare with others, because you still have time to improve. It's all about your self-evaluation. Okay, all the best. Thank you, folks.